a brand new episode of the Drinks Break Show with me, Ridhima Pathak, and my guest today. I had the honor of working with him in the Olympics, and I have always wondered that how can God give so much talent in one person? And today, while I was, I had to prepare for this interview, and I was going through his videos, and I was looking at his TED talk and everything, and that just kept haunting me. That how can one person have so much talent? Well, ladies and gentlemen, Somdev Devvarman. Of course, you know him as the pro tennis athlete, one of the finest tennis players that India's produced, the man who created history by winning back-to-back NCAA championships. But apart from that, the man who is also a fantastic music composer. If you don't believe me, you've got to watch and listen to his YouTube channel and the songs that he's posted there. Also, he became a viral sensation during the Olympics with the song that he sang. Along with that, the man also has a non-profit organization called Life is a Ball. So, other than that, you're a doting husband because I know you to give time to your wife after this. So, where do I start? Isn't it a little unfair that you have so much talent and I have none?
Yeah, first of all, I mean, nonsense. Whoever's watching, don't listen. All I can say is, thank you. Thank you for making me feel good about my day and myself. And come on, what can I say? Let's begin. Let's begin.
So, I have to tell you that I'm super nervous about this interview because you have already been complimented by Djokovic saying that this is the best interview ever. So, how do I up my game from that, man? And what was that like for you?
That was a really fun interview because couple of things. One is it was spur of the moment kind of thing. We just knew that he was going to be coming in at that point, so I didn't want to talk to him about tennis really because he had also just finished I think an hour and a half of interviews, and I'm sure he talked about the GOAT debate, and he talked about the tennis and the records that he's now breaking. So I didn't want to go over that. And this is just one of those things that I felt needed a little bit of addressing because I'm a big Novak fan. I know him personally, and I know the amount of stuff that he does, and somehow it just gets lost. I just felt like it gets lost, and it was just felt like the right moment to bring it up.
Well, let me tell you, it was one interview that I thought was very, very humanitarian, and that's the point of doing an interview with an athlete because everybody knows what the athlete's done on the court. But apart from that, what all does he do to bring that kind of character on court is what you touched upon. And that's exactly what I'd like to touch upon in this interview. Is because,
All right.
I have to tell you, I've never said this to your face, but I think I'm a huge admirer of the kind of human being that you are. You're so chill, you're so cool. You talk to everybody, in the Sony office or whatever interacted. You talk to everybody like everybody's your friend. And when I was watching your TED talk, I kind of realized where probably you get it from is the fact that you spoke about structure and culture in sports and how NCAA added value to your life. I want you to touch upon that because this particular channel is not just to talk about sports. It's for youngsters to take inspiration to get into sports. And I think both of us are on the same page there.
Yeah, we certainly are. We certainly are. I think, one of the things that I've always felt that was required in sport in India was to have that kind of constant, something consistent, which basically is a good structure. Whether that's structure in practice or development or habits or training, or the different kinds of ways of training, what's expected of the athlete. I felt like you needed to kind of have that structure from an early age, and then the culture just builds around that. You just need to, similar to Indian cricket, right? Like why is Indian cricket so successful? Because every kid on the street wants to play for India. They dream to play for India, and hence we have probably more than 50 players that we can pick that would play for our country and would play really well because of the fact that they've dreamed about that moment. And I felt like that's something that's required not just in cricket, but in other sports as well. I thought that it would be an incredible opportunity if anybody would be able to take it, to actually make us a truly sporting nation, which would mean that every kid wants to go out there, play, and they see that there's a path that they can take, and it's a realistic path that they can take. And even if sport doesn't work out, something good can come out of it. So you're now creating that kind of pool. So I mean, that's kind of where that stemmed from, and so those were my thoughts really.
The fact that you mentioned character, culture, discipline, and I think that has added a lot of value in your life, especially because one would always wonder, ki, what do I need to do to become like Somdev? And where do we begin? Is because this was a part of how you grew up, how sport added value to it, and how it changed your mindset. Now, I've seen most of the athletes that when they all achieve a lot in their 20s, but there is a time where this is a saturation point that hits. And not only with athletes, people who achieve young, they said hit a saturation point at a certain level. What should they do there? What did you do once you retired? What kept you going? What was your motivation?
I think, first of all, to each their own. That's the important thing over here. But, in terms of saturation point, I felt like that's a great question, Ridhima, because, I retired. I retired early. I retired at 31. Who retires at 31, right? I mean, I stopped playing tennis. And for me, I knew that there had to be something else. There had to be something more. And I felt like, energy-wise, I was still, didn't quite have the same kind of energy and motivation with tennis. But I still felt like I was an energized and motivated person as a human being. So the first thing I would say for me that helped a lot was, recognize that, don't separate the athlete and the person. They go hand in hand. I think that's the most important thing, and I mean, how else can I say it? I mean, the person is the to fulfill the person, it requires a lot of work. To grow as a human being, it requires a lot of work. And there I found like, similar principles that would work with sport. It would be exactly the same if you applied it to your life as an athlete as well. So then when I didn't become an athlete, or when I stopped being an athlete rather, um, there still needed to be that kind of aim towards growth, whatever that growth might be towards. So for me, it was, I was learning. Yeah, I mean, I studied. I had a degree, but I still felt, I wanted to move into TV, so I needed to study it. I needed to understand what I wanted to do with it, and see, what kind of an expert, lack of a better word, how better could I portray the sport that I love so much to the people that would be watching or tuning in. And so I felt like, that was one of the most important things, is regardless of what it is you're doing, as long as you're continuing to grow, and you get opportunities to do that every day, because I mean, at the end of the day, we're people. So growth doesn't just mean, success, because success at that point is relative. What is success, and how much more of it do you need to feel whole or complete? So for me, growth became things like, if something would tick me off one day, and if it ticked me off, 1 month later, then where's the growth? And what is it that was ticking me off? And why was it ticking me off? Was I actually upset with myself? Was I upset with situations? Was I really, trying to control things I couldn't control? And then would I allow things that I couldn't control to then affect me? So, it just kind of, I feel like always comes down, to yourself, focusing on yourself, doing the things that you can do. And if you do it reasonably to the best of your abilities, then you'll continue learning. You'll continue learning, you'll continue growing, and then the actual act becomes less important. And the efforts that go into your total growth as a human being become much more important.
It is of great importance, and that's why you wrote a song, and I've heard it, something more real, and I thought it was a very 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 apt song for today's day and age, is because everybody is sort of consumed by social media. So your self-talk that you do with yourself is very much influenced by everything that you see. I want to know, what is the kind of self-talk Somdev Devvarman does? What do you do?
That great questions. Great question. What's the self-talk that I do? Usually is to focus on the things that are happening and not let thoughts own me. Whether that thought is something that's this way or something that's this way. A thought is a thought. The nature of the mind, I've always felt, is that thoughts are going to come in and thoughts are going to come out. Am I consumed by these thoughts, or are the thoughts just something that come in and out, and I just happen to be watching them? So I that's what I felt. The things that I like to do. I mean, that song, Something More Real, I felt like was just my expression of how I saw. I mean, we you know how it is. We all go to lunches and dinners with our friends, and if there's 5, 6 people, there's always 3 or 4 people on the phone. So I always try to not have my phone on during meals, and see if I could still function, and see if my life would be better or worse with or without the influence of constant, I mean, gratification, if you want to call it that. And the reason I say that is because, I think all of us are human beings at the end of the day. We get affected by things we read. So then if you love something that you read about yourself, and you allow that to, kind of sit with you, then you also have to, just as importantly, read the things that people don't like about you and treat it the same way. If you had that ability, then things would affect you less, especially things that you read, things that you get influenced by, things that you're peer pressured into. And so, one of the things that I concluded was that I didn't find that my life personally was getting that much better because 250 people decided to like something that I did. It didn't matter if I posted it or not. Whether those people liked it or not made a difference, and I was wondering why that was. And so then I kind of went AWOL on social media for the last couple of years. I would say I post when I feel like it. I look at my phone, I post, and then I don't look at my phone again. And so that's kind of what that song was really about: is how much we're consumed by something this big,
Yeah.
and we're just consumed by it. And I didn't think that that was the healthiest thing to be consumed by, because obviously we've also reached a point where now we know with the algorithms. I mean, the other day I was talking about the fact that I needed to buy a new suitcase, and suddenly, lo and behold, there's 5 suitcase ads on my feed. My wife was talking about some makeup, and boom, makeup's what we're buying, and we're looking at these discounts. And so, it just started feeling like, has it now reached a point where I'm actually even having my own thoughts? Because I mean, it really seemed like I wasn't. We would talk about something would be trending, and before you know it, we're consumed by it. And I was just wondering what the point of it all was, if we all wanted to, live a better life, work hard, live a better life, have a better life because of the hard work that we've done, and then kind of let something else control the mood that you're walking into or waking up to every morning. I just felt like it was not that necessary. And also, I feel like I had the, advantage, privilege. I mean, you and I are from the same era. We know what it's like to grow up without a phone. We know what
Yeah.
and as a 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old, when I didn't have a phone, I never felt once that I was incomplete. I never felt once that I needed it to communicate with someone, or to see if somebody liked what I was doing or didn't like what I was doing. And I was much more focused on the things that I was doing myself. So that was kind of where the song came from. I know I'm rattling on a little bit over here, so I'm sure you have the next
No.
one. So let's move ahead.
Don't worry about it. In fact, I would recommend everybody to go and hear that song, is because it will make so much sense to you, because it really did. It really hit me. And I was really wondering, of someone, who can write down lyrics like this, what does he talk to himself? Having said that, so, I've interviewed many athletes, and I've always wondered that the difference between me and them is probably they took something more seriously in life, which probably I didn't, or someone who, is not on that level of success. And I was watching this interview of Virat Kohli, and he said that I looked at myself in the mirror one day, and the very next day I changed everything about it. The very next day, it was a switch that went off. Does it work like that? Is there a switch, or was there a moment like that in your life when you decided that you have to take this path of being better than, not having an average life, being very committed to what you are? Was there a switch? Was it a moment?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, first of all, my view of an athlete versus a non-athlete is very, I mean, the differences are very minimal because at the end of the day, they're still people. They still want the same things, and they're still driven by the same things. They want motivation. There's many I mean, those are the similarities. The differences I would say is that an athlete's lifespan is very short. So you recognize that, and for me, I mean, one of my old coaches when I was about 17, 18, he looked at me and he said, "Hey, you have 60 months. You have 60 months. You have 5 years, and if you don't do it in those 60 months, then your chances of making it go significantly lower." And then I just started, thinking to myself, all right, 60 months is not that long a time for me to, decide if I've made it, if I'm not, if I'm going to continue playing or not. And so at that point, honestly, I looked back and I said, all right, well, what are the things that I want? How do you prioritize it? I mean, do I like having fun? Yes, I like having fun just as much as the next person, but once I felt like I prioritized things, I said, all right, training comes first, certain things come next. Rest is very high up in that order. And if I've checked off all of those boxes, then I'm allowed to do kind of what I want to do. If I haven't, then I need to, just remind myself and say, hey, I mean, these are the things that we agreed, me and past me and future me. All of us kind of sat down and we agreed that, this would make sense if we approached it this way. And of course, along the process, things will change. Along the process, you learn new things about however it is you want to improve on different parts of your game or yourself or whatever. But the point being is that the one thing that was constant is trying to find different ways to get better. It's honestly as simple as that. And so once that constant remained, then the method of getting better would change, because sometimes you would try this way, sometimes you would try that, but your dedication, your commitment, and your resolve towards what you wanted to do, that remains strong. And as long as that doesn't change, I felt like the approach I took could vary as long as I was still committed and motivated. So that's how I would talk about it with pretty much anybody. That's how I coach my kids as well. I always sit down and I ask them, all right, what is it that you want, and what are we going to do to get you from point A to point B in the most efficient way possible, because it can't be just me and it can't be just you, and it's not magic. It's not rocket science to improve. It's not. So let's all agree on what it is that we need to do, and once we've agreed, then we hold each other to a certain standard to say, all right, now we're on the practice court, this is what we said, and we know that there are going to be distractions. We know that someone has broken up with their boyfriend or their girlfriend the day before, or someone had a fight in school, or someone just is having a bad day. But we also know, and we've discussed that regardless of what kind of day it is you're having, when you're here, and we're going to do our best to make it work. So I think plugging on, keep going, regardless of winning, losing, failing, succeeding. I mean, what is success really? What is failure really? As long as you feel like, for me at least, as long as I feel like I can take something from that previous experience, move on and get better with it, then that's success. So
Yeah.
I feel like judging yourself too harshly just based on something like a win or a loss, or an exam, did you fail or did you pass? Have you been making progress, and have you been committing to yourself that you're going to put yourself in the right positions to make that progress? And if you can do that, I mean, I know it sounds simple, redundant maybe, But I've always looked at that, getting better as the most important thing.
This is my biggest takeaway from this interview. We sat down, the past me, the present me, and the future me, and we decided what needs to be done. This is the best line on the show for sure.